Welcome, Gunrunner.
So let's start off by addressing the elephant in the room here, or should I say the dragon in the room, because I'm sure a lot of my regular viewers are wondering why on earth I'm covering a computer like the Dragon 32 in my Amazing Facts series. Now, I've stated before that I like covering more obscure platforms, but even then machines like the Atari XE game system and Philips Video Pack are still known to the majority of retro gamers around the world, which I don't think you can say about the Dragon. But I've always stated that I like to make videos that interest me, the kind of videos that I would watch myself. A lot of YouTubers make videos that they think will be popular. I've never followed that mantra. The Dragon 32 is a computer that's always fascinated me, since I first encountered one as a kid. And although I've never actually owned one, I hope to correct that at some point. And I've spent an awful lot of time researching its history. I don't know if it's because it's a British home computer, or because it was a huge underdog. Probably a bit of both actually, but it holds a strange amount of affection from me. So that's why I wanted to make the Dragon 32 the latest star of my Amazing Facts series. And I hope you won't dismiss this video due to the obscure subject matter, because there really are some great pieces of trivia here, and there's a lot to learn about a very exciting time in home computing history. Much is made of the fact that the Dragon 32 and 64 were designed and manufactured in Wales. Of course, the Dragon Data name and logo is a direct reference to this. Their original home was Swansea, best known for their football team, and Catherine Zeta-Jones before they moved to Port Talbot, which is about 8 miles east of Swansea and is often noted for its huge steelworks. This gave the Dragon a big point of difference over its British 8-bit rivals, such as the Oric, BBC, Amstrad CPC and ZX Spectrum, that were produced by English companies. Of course, this meant that the computer sold particularly well in its homeland, with the Welsh being fiercely patriotic people. Dragon Data themselves were originally a subsidiary of the historic British toy company Metoy, who were also the founders of the famous Corgi brand, another Welsh name of course, and the original distributor of Hot Wheels in the UK. They later sold their stake in Dragon when they were going through financial difficulties. With Dragon Data keen to get into the home computer market as quickly as possible, they chose to adopt an existing design rather than develop their own. For this, they looked across the pond to Tandy Radio Shack, and specifically their new Tandy Colour computer, which was the replacement for the best-selling TRS-80. Dragon Data never actually approached Tandy to license the design though. It was actually sold to them through Motorola in Strathclyde, Scotland, who produced most of the chips. This was done without Tandy's consent, and many people were surprised that they even got away with it. The design of the Dragon 32 hardware is very closely based on the Coco, with only some slight changes being made to the system ROM and video output, as the Dragon needed to work with PAL TV sets. They were just different enough that they were compatible with each other, but it was very easy to make some small changes to the code of a Coco game to get it to run on the Dragon and vice versa. The biggest difference was that the Coco did have a full colour graphics mode, whilst the Dragon didn't, and games were restricted to using one of 2 full colour modes, each of which had a different palette, or a high resolution monochrome mode. Unlike most other 8-bit computers, which were either designed around a Zilog Z80 or an MOS 6502, the Dragon 32 and 64 had a Motorola 6809 at their core. This was a very advanced processor for the time that had limited 16-bit capabilities and ran at 0.89 MHz. Now this might not sound fast, but due to the way this CPU is designed, it was much more efficient at executing and running instructions, making it ultimately more powerful than both the more well-known processors. It's said that it was also much easier to program for too because of this. The only real downside to using this particular chip was that it wasn't as easy to port games from other 8-bit computers, and subsequently there were a lot less programmers out there with the knowledge of this CPU who could program games for the Dragon. Some companies, Dragon included, initially got round this by importing Tandy Coco games from America and converting them to run on the Dragon. This proved especially profitable for leading Dragon software publisher Microdeal. In a rather strange turn of fate, Dragon Data actually signed a licensing deal with New Orleans-based Tano Corporation to manufacture, market and distribute the Dragon 32 and 64 computers in North America. This would see the Dragon going head-to-head with the computer that it cloned, the Tandy Coco. The external design would remain exactly the same, with any minor adjustments being made to the internal circuitry so it was compatible with NTSC TVs. This would of course make it virtually identical on a hardware level to the Tandy Color computer and give Tano an instant resource of games and other software in their homeland. Unfortunately, this venture proved to be very unsuccessful for Tano. The North American home computer market was extremely cutthroat, and the deep discounting being applied by the likes of Commodore and Atari left it very difficult for anyone else to get a foothold in the market. In fact, they were left with so much unsold inventory that it was possible to purchase the Tano Dragon new in a box until early 2017 from California Digital, a retailer that purchased all the remaining stock. One of the many cost-saving measures applied by Dragon Data when developing the machine was only including an uppercase character set in the ROM. This, combined with the unusual display mode of the Dragon 32, left it very unappealing for business users and for educational use too, which at the time represented a very large share of the home computer market. Initially, the only way around this was for programmers to create their own custom character sets in software, but obviously this used up precious memory and resources. Eventually, Dragon would update the operating system to include lowercase characters, but this was only available to users of the more expensive Dragon 64, leaving it out of reach for the vast majority of the user base. Many people believe that not including an 80-column text mode with lowercase characters was one of Dragon Data's biggest mistakes, as the computer had one of the best keyboards of any 8-bit micro, making it particularly attractive to more serious users. Perhaps one of the most surprising facts on this list is that going into Christmas 1982, the Dragon 32 was the second best-selling computer in the UK, behind the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Serious supply problems at Sinclair have meant that they just couldn't keep up with demand, and serious hardware issues with the Oric 1, as well as the extremely high price of both the BBC Micro and Atari 800, only helped things swing in their favour. In fact, sales were so good that even Dragon Data couldn't meet demand, and they set about building a new manufacturing plant to increase production. However, this success was short-lived, and once Sinclair caught up with the demand, sales started to drop off. Then a range of other new computers started to arrive on the scene, like the Commodore 64 and Acorn Electron, that also started to eat into their market share. Before long, Dragon was sitting on piles of unsold inventory, and many retailers were starting to drop the Dragon 32 from their product range in favour of the new, more advanced computers. One thing that will no doubt surprise those not familiar with the Dragon 32 software library is that it has a particularly large quantity of high quality arcade ports. Granted, most of these are far from official, as was common on the 8-bit computers of this era, but that didn't stop them being surprisingly accurate. Now, I use the word surprisingly for good reason, because let's be honest here, the Dragon 32 hardware is not well suited to hosting state-of-the-art arcade games. But developers didn't let the 4-colour graphics modes and simple sound chips stop them. The top contenders in this category include Microdeal's Donkey King, Spectral Associates' Ice Castles, Incentive's Mooncrester, Microdeal's Frogger, Ocean's Hunchback, Microdeal's Lunar Rover Patrol, Dragon Data's Berserk, and Buzzard Bait by Tom Mix Software. I'm sure all Dragon owners watching this will be able to name plenty more too. Almost from their start, Dragon Data was seeking outside investment to keep them afloat. The collapse of majority shareholder Metoy in their formative years hit the company hard, and it was mainly the huge sums of money invested by General Electric Company that kept them going as long as they did. But come summer 1984, even GEC had given up on Dragon Data, announcing that the home computer market wasn't as profitable as people thought it was, and they would be putting the company into receivership. It was opened up to bidders, and there were some early talks with some pretty big players, including Philips and rather ironically Tandy, who remained as a bidder right up until the end. But the receivers ultimately turned down Tandy's bid, even though they were by far the best company to take Dragon data forward, and instead accepted an offer from Spanish company Eurohard SA. The new owners immediately moved all production to Spain and made some grand announcements on the future of the brand, including the release of several new models. However, things really didn't work out for Eurohard. Despite large subsidies from the Spanish government that got Dragon computers into schools, the general public in their homeland just weren't interested, and sales had been incredibly slow. They stumbled along until 1987 before shutting down Dragon completely and liquidating all their inventory, just before they were about to release a new model that could have saved the company. Dragon Data made numerous attempts to revive their fortunes by introducing new enhanced models into the market. The best and most well known of these is the Dragon 64, which, as the name indicates, features double the memory of the 32. The Dragon 64 was actually announced back in 1982, not long after the release of the original model, but didn't appear until 1984 due to a lot of dithering over what it was going to be and a potential upgrade route for Dragon 32 owners. Dragon originally intended to release an expansion pack that plugged into the back of your Dragon 32 to upgrade it. This then changed to a board modification, then a full board swap, before the final solution, which was nothing more than a trade-in, where existing Dragon 32 owners got money off a 64 for handing back their old micro. This wasn't what the ultra-loyal user base wanted, and they saw it as a real kick in the teeth. Most people believe that the bungled Dragon 64 introduction was the first nail in the coffin for the company. Several minor upgrades were made to the standard Dragon 64, including an improved version of Microsoft Basic that could access more memory, and a new operating system known as OS 9. Later versions of the machine were rebranded as the GEC Dragon before Eurohard took control of the company, and revised it once more in the form of the Dragon 200 and Dragon 200E. The standard 200 was the same as the 64 but with a flat top, so you could sit and monitor on it. The enhanced E model featured a piggyback board inside that allowed the Dragon to display lowercase characters, as well as special characters from the Spanish alphabet, and also an 80-column display mode for word processing. This model made some inroads into the educational market, but nothing more, and couldn't save the fortunes of the Dragon name. As well as launching the Dragon 64 as a follow-up to the 32, Dragon Data also developed and announced a range of other new computers, including the more powerful Dragon 128, a portable with a black and white screen, and a highly advanced but stupidly expensive professional computer that was aimed squarely at the business market. There was also the Dragon 200 and Dragon 200E, of course, which were basically redesigned Dragon 64s for the Spanish market. But undoubtedly the most interesting new computer was the Dragon MSX, which would have made them one of the first European companies to adopt the MSX standard, which, if you don't know, was a common computer standard developed by Microsoft, ASCII Corporation and Spectra Video that was then licensed to various manufacturers around the world to make their own compatible models. There were initial plans to make the Dragon MSX compatible with both the Dragon 64 and 32, as well as the MSX standard, but this idea was dropped by the time the first prototypes were produced, which just used the MSX hardware with 64K of RAM. As we already know, Dragon went bankrupt just before this new model went into production. Many people believe that the Dragon MSX could have saved the company, and when you consider that the MSX went on to be one of the dominant home computers in Spain, it's pretty hard to disagree. Oh, what could have been, eh?
So when are shopkeepers going to be able to start taking delivery of Dragons again?
Well, shopkeepers are receiving deliveries at the moment. The only thing that I'm not accepting now are orders guaranteed for delivery prior to Christmas, because those orders are already in.
What do you see as the advantages your computers have over their rivals?
We see it as an easy machine with plenty of space available in the form of its 32K RAM, a number of useful facilities like the graphics and the sound, and a very simple BASIC, which is a worldwide standard, which means that they can access software from other sources quite easily.
What do you think we need to do to keep ahead in this field?
Keep an opinion of what the customer really wishes to buy, and obviously there is a need to keep redesigning and bringing new discoveries or new modifications into the machine as frequently as possible.
Over Christmas itself, Dragon's on the move to a new, bigger,
And that rounds up my look at 10 amazing Dragon 32 facts. Which of these fabulous facts was your favourite? Or can you think of any other tantalising tidbits of trivia that I didn't include? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Mitchell Valentino, Neptune, Sethi Robinson, Carl Olsen, DOS Gamerman and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now. You can get access to a host of extra content including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.